Get started then. My name is James McQueen. I'm a social worker here at the Family Health Team. I'm doing a presentation today on making healthy habits stick as part of our spring webinar series. It's an interesting topic because we often get into the habit of wanting to make changes and maybe health style or health or lifestyle sort of changes, whether that's exercising more or eating differently or quitting smoking or going for more walks or what have you. There's a multitude of things that people want to change. Usually starts off pretty good, or we all have good intentions with us, but then it might start to slip. So, purpose of this webinar is just to give some tools and some skills in order to maintain that change using a principle or an approach called acceptance and commitment therapy or acceptance and commitment training, which is a approach that I'm quite passionate about. And this approach can be used for things like depression and anxiety and health and lifestyle changes as well. Uh, so I'm coming from this from both a professional and also a little bit of a personal background with this too. I started running about 5 years ago, kind of later in life. Went from not really being able to run like for 1 or 2 minutes at a time to doing more distances since then, or longer distances since then. But it's not been without its trials and tribulations and getting caught up in my own mind. So the approaches that I'm using are just coming from sort of like the clinical literature or books, which they are, but also just from personal experience too, which I hope to share with everybody. So let's begin, shall we? One thing I just wanted to talk about briefly here is why is being healthy so hard, or engaging in these different habits? The main reason is that some of the stuff isn't actually evolutionarily uh, good for us, so to say. So when we were, living in smaller groups, most of our time was spent physically, just kind of like trying to survive. So if you were, if you were engaging in farm work or hunting or, often very physical labor, there's real no purpose for exercise, really. Like it's not like you would actually need to like go to the gym or anything because you're doing all these things anyways. So why is it hard now? It's because there's a little bit of a mismatch with our society as it is now. And this mismatch is just, our society is quite different, and we have a lot of conveniences around. We often hear that our parents walk like 5 miles to school. So I have an image there to show that. Also, even little things, right? Like the TV. I have a remote. I don't have to get up anymore and walk around. Some statistics from research that's been done over the past 30 to 40 years. This is kind of interesting. So, one study showed that 50% of people who start an exercise program will drop out within 6 months. 30% of New Year's resolutions are abandoned within 2 weeks, and 50% by 6 months. And another study, which is more recent, was that 50 to 65% of health and fitness apps that are downloaded are actually used for less than 30 days. And I can attest to that. I've downloaded many apps myself, and they've often gone by the wayside. Just kind of want to get this one out of the way to start off with. We often hear this phrase, it takes like 21 days to form a habit. Hopefully, most of you have heard that, and this is actually purely a myth. It came out of a book that from the 1960s about people who had undergone plastic surgery, and it took them 21 days to get used to their new appearance. So this book also expanded on this and sort of like put it to other aspects of life, but there's actually no research to verify any of this. So there's a study that was done in 2009 just to look at this, and it actually found out that in order to maintain a habit, it takes on range between 18 to 254 days. And these habits in this study were just simply eating a piece of fruit for lunch or with lunch, drinking a bottle of water with lunch, or running for 15 minutes before dinner. So on average, it was like 66 days, but there's a wide range there just because everybody's different and there's different factors involved, whether it's individual stuff or what's going on in your lives at the time. But the biggest take from this study, and this isn't necessarily rocket science either, is that consistent daily repetition was the biggest factor for influence whether this behavior would become part of your daily routine or not. So yeah, just like I said before, this the content from this is taken from this this therapeutic technique or training technique called acceptance and commitment therapy, which is based upon a model of psychological flexibility. And without getting too much into the weeds about what psychological flexibility is, it's just the ability to see what is important to you and to move towards that, while also noticing and doing something about the difficult thoughts and feelings and physical sensations and emotions that are going to be naturally coming about with us. One tool that we can use in order uh, to show the psychological flexibility is this tool called a choice point. So if you want to jot this down, feel free. It's just simply two arrows, two pointy arrows going off in different directions. One arrow is going to represent the towards moves. So that just means moving towards the person that you want to be. Other arrow is away moves. So away moves are usually dictated by difficult thoughts, feelings, emotions, sensations, memories. And it's called the choice point because everything that we do during the day, during our life, really is based upon this choice point. Everybody here showed up to this webinar, so they're doing a towards moves because there's something about why this is important to you. It could be about curiosity, it could be about growth, it could be about personal development, and those are all what we call our values. So we're all acting upon our values. I showed up to this webinar because I'm passionate about this. I like to impart knowledge, or I like to teach things, and I like to see people grow. I like to help people. So those are my towards moves for why I'm here. And at the bottom of this arrow is the thing that we want to do. So for me, it would be uh, facilitating webinar would be at the bottom, and then towards moves would be helping people growth, whatnot. And there's going to be some passengers that get in the way too. Kind of nervous about doing this webinar, can't lie. Kind of nervous, and I wonder how people are going to respond to it and stuff. But those are just natural thoughts and feelings that I'm going to have because those things are completely normal to feel. So yeah, just simply away moves on the left hand arrow, towards moves on the right hand arrow, and we're going to be getting into each one of these throughout the webinar. Here's a little example. So healthy habit that this person wants to change is exercise. It's a classic. So towards moves, why is this important to the person? Values, challenge, fun, fitness. And what is the goal that we could have that's about exercise? So it could be going out for a 30-minute walk 4 times per week after dinner in the morning on weekends would be the goal. And we'll be getting into more detail about those things later on. And then this person, if they're acting away from being the person that they want to be, they're going to have certain passengers that get in the way. So these passengers could be difficult thoughts, like this is too hard, I'm going to fail anyways. Feeling could be like feeling defeated even before you start. Sensations must be like a sluggish feeling. And memories, so the person might think, yeah, like 5 years ago, I tried to do this. I went for like a couple of weeks, or I downloaded an app and I didn't use it within 30 days. And I just gave up after a few weeks. So based upon that, I probably won't be successful again. Those are the stuff that's happening inside the person that could get in the way. Choice point, effective tool. Effective tool just to lay out sort of like a template for the change that we're making. And the only place to make a decision or a choice in our life is now, and that is in the present moment. Can't really make a choice in the future, can't really make a choice, based upon the past. It is only in the here and now in the present moment that we can make a choice, which means we can be present with what's important to us, so our values, and we can also notice and be aware too of all the stuff that might get in the way, like those passengers, those difficult thoughts and feelings, what we respond to, because it often seems like we're on autopilot with things, right? We either do things or we don't do things uh, based upon uh, without really even thinking about it. It's just this automatic reaction for what we do or we don't do things. And being present, we could also call it mindfulness. We could also call it just simply noticing, having awareness, being attuned to what's going on. Lots of different mindfulness apps out there, things like calm.com. Headspace is a pretty popular one. But being present just means noticing and noticing what's going on in the here and now. And we can simply use our five senses for this. So one thing we can do just to ground ourselves into the here and now so we can notice the chatter that's going on in our head, or notice difficult thoughts and feelings, or notice what's important to us, is just to simply spend 30 seconds hearing, touching, tasting, smelling, seeing different things, noticing what's going on in your body, noticing what emotions are showing up. So, I'm getting anxious about this, and that's what I'm noticing, or noticing the pride that I'm feeling when I do something or engage in something. And then also noticing and being aware of those thoughts that are going on. So I mentioned passengers on the bus and the choice point, and your thoughts, emotions, memories, urges, basically anything that's going on inside of you, like I said, are like the passengers, and you are the driver of your bus trying to get to your destination or your values. These passengers, there's multiple passengers. Some are really nice and kind. Some might just be sitting back and might be quite quiet. They're not really bothering you at all. They're just happy to be going along for the ride. There's other passengers that could be meaner, more critical, might even be quite loud as well. And they're telling you to go different directions, or to stop, uh, or where to go. They could be really quite self-critical about your driving as well, or criticize your performance. And they might lean in, when you're driving your bus, and they might really be shouting at you. Those passengers, our thoughts, could be putting up different obstacles in the way about about moving towards what's important to us, or our values. And our values are our destination. So it could be like things like, I won't have enough time to do this, or going for a walk, right? It could be too cold, too hot, too windy, too humid, not humid enough. I don't know. It could be anything. Passengers might be making judgments too about us, right? That self-critical voice inside our head that's, I won't do it right, or other people are doing it better than I can, which is a comparison. Uh, right, so other people are doing the stuff, and it seems like it's easier for them, but it might be hard for me. And then our passengers also try to be like psychics or fortune tellers, and they're making all sorts of predictions about what's going on as well. So a common, thing that people might say to themselves, you're never going to keep it up, so why bother? Uh, what's the point? Yeah, they're predicting basically like unpleasant outcomes. What's the point? Gonna fail anyways. So we have some options to deal with our passengers, and these are things that people will usually do, and that's you can do what they say. You can actually listen to those difficult passengers on your bus. Problem is you'll never get to your destination, and it kind of just reinforces the message that it's telling you anyways. You can fight with it. That usually ends up in a endless debate though about it, right? So every time that you counter something, there will be like a counterpoint to that, and it just kind of like goes on and on and on and on and on, and ends up in lots of energy being wasted on this. Or you could white knuckle it, just grit your teeth and go, press on the gas as much as possible, and just try to get to where you're going. Uh, this will certainly get to where you want to be, but it's not going to be very enjoyable at all. Problem with our passengers is that we also might try to get rid of them, but that's very difficult because our thoughts are our thoughts, and they're kind of like with us forever. So I had some examples here. So eeny, meeny, miny, mo, Mary had a little, and there's no place like blank. I can imagine what automatically comes to mind when people read those things, and that is an automatic response, and you were having a thought that just naturally pops up. And if you said anything else other than mo or lamb or home, then good on you. But most people would probably fill that in with mo or lamb or home, because that is what we were taught. And as hard as I might say, don't think about those things when you read it, you're going to think about those things. So instead of listening to our passengers or white knuckling it or debating with them, we can try to have a different relationship uh, with those thoughts. So in the real world, if a passenger said to the bus driver, right, if you can drop me off in front of my house, right, just take the next left, and he gives you directions, and the bus driver is like, no, sorry, I have a route to follow. I have to get to where I'm going. That is probably what the bus driver is going to say, and that's kind of the relationship that we want to have with our thoughts. So not necessarily listen to them. We can pay attention to them and notice them, acknowledge them. We don't necessarily have to listen to them. If I ask people if they listen to every thought that they have during the daytime, I'm assuming everybody here would probably say, no, I don't listen to all my thoughts that I have during the daytime, because you just don't, because there's other ways of responding to them. The term for this is I'm going to call it unhooking. So we want to try to unhook from our thoughts instead of being caught up with them or entangled with them, or having those thoughts like they're kind of like right in front of our face that we can't see anything that's going on. A few strategies here, and these have all been tested in the research and have found to be effective. One is just simply observe the thought, and we can just do this by noticing it. Specifically, saying to ourselves, you know what, I'm noticing I'm having the thought that this will be too hard for me, or I'm noticing I'm having a thought that I'm going to fail at this, which is a much different take on I'm going to fail at this, or this is going to be like super hard. When you put it like that, it's just you're getting a little bit of distance from the thought, and you're seeing the thought for what it is. It's an opinion that your bus or that the passenger is giving to you. Another simple strategy is looking at them differently, and we can use imagery for this purpose. There's a meditative type exercises for this called Leaves on a Stream. And it is simply closing your eyes and picturing a stream with leaves on it. And if you want to do this right now, feel free. I can guide you through it. So just close your eyes and notice a stream with different leaves on it. And every time that you have a thought, just notice that thought as being like a leaf on the stream. And we're not trying to get rid of the thoughts or make them flow faster. We're just every time we have a thought, just treat it like a leaf on the stream. Just imagine it as a leaf on the stream. This exercise can be found on YouTube. There's versions of it. So if you just put in the YouTube browser leaves on stream, acceptance and commitment therapy, there should be versions of it. Another common way that our mind gets us is by using the word but. And the word but means be out. So we're negating one thing and we're adding in another thing. See this all the time. I would like to start eating healthy, but I will start on Monday. Like Monday is any different than any other day, right? But it sounds good to us. I would like to go for a walk, but I'm too tired. The simple act of putting the word and in there changes it a little bit because two things can be true at the same time. Like with going for the walk, right? I would want to go for a walk, and I can be a bit tired. That's totally possible. Just because I'm tired, it doesn't mean that I can't go for a walk. But that just means that two things can be true at the same time. Another way to unhook from our thoughts is by recognizing that you might be buying a thought that is not in service of something or in service of something. When you go to the grocery store and there's all those items on the shelf, those might be your thoughts. And do you have to purchase or buy or put into your cart every item that's on the grocery shelf? Probably not. We choose the items on the grocery shelf according to our needs and according to what's important to us, just like our thoughts. Our brain produces anywhere between like 60,000 to 80,000 thoughts per day, which is an incredible amount of thoughts. Some are really important, some are kind of trivial, some dictate to us what we should do, some not what we should do, but we don't listen to them all. And why? Because there's some that are just not, they're just not important to us, and they're not in the service of something. Another strategy is to simply externalize those thoughts that we have, right? So when those critical passengers come up, right, just say to yourself, oh, there's those critical passengers again. Or we can imagine our thoughts, or our brain, I should say, like being like an overly helpful friend, or an overly pessimistic friend, right? That person who is quite negative that we might have in our life. And that person is telling us to do something, but again, if somebody is telling us to do something, we don't necessarily have to listen to it. And saying to ourselves, there's my negative friend telling me that I shouldn't be doing this, is simply another strategy. So we call this unhooking. Observing, looking at them different using some sort of imagery, changing the way that we say those thoughts by putting the word and into it if you find yourself saying the word but. Noticing what's important to you when you're having that thought and what you could do differently, and then externalizing them and treating them like something different. Emotions, different feelings are going to be popping up when we're embarking on some sort of change. Could be anxiety, Could be could be guilt. Uh, it could be fear. Yeah, could be lots of things. And those emotions might knock us off of our route that we want to go to. Starting any health change and maintaining any health change, it can be daunting and provoking. Also, when we start a health change and then we might like slip a bit, guilt shows up, or maybe even shame, and we might listen to that, and then we might not start at all again, or we might not restart. And those emotions, yeah, they have purposes to us. And sometimes we might tell ourselves not to feel guilt or not to feel fear or not to feel anxiety or whatnot. Uh, but that is difficult to do. Oftentimes, we're given the advice of, well, don't worry about it, or don't think about it, or don't feel that, or whatever. And that has never worked for anybody. Not feeling something has never worked for anybody. You're naturally going to experience those emotions that you have. And the relationship that we have with those difficult thoughts or feelings is really important. When those feelings show up, we have, there's a few choices that we have. So picture, picture two nations, that have different views on things, and they have three choices to deal with their differences. One is to fight, take over, defend, or change it. The other one is to sign a truce. So technically, they're still at war, but it could flare up at any time. Or the other is to have a peace treaty. And having the peace treaty is kind of how we want to be with our different emotions. We want to recognize them, acknowledge them, but we don't necessarily want to fight with them or get into some sort of into battle with our emotions, especially that fear or that guilt that we might feel. So when experiencing those feelings, the the term that we have for this is called opening up to our feelings. And this is the opposite of avoidance. So avoidance would mean don't think about it or don't feel it or don't feel scared that you're going to be embarking on this. Some very simple ways of opening up to our emotions is simply by noticing it and labeling it. We call that affect labeling. And it is, I am noticing a feeling or sensation of blank. The phrase that we use for this is naming it to tame it. So I am noticing a feeling of nervousness, or I'm noticing a feeling of guilt. Another thing that we can do is give it some properties to make it a physical thing. So noticing where it is in your body, notice the outline of that emotion or sensation. Looking at it like in terms of like color, shape, texture, those types of things. And saying to ourselves, like if somebody else were going through this feeling, what would I say to them? So if a friend of yours said, oh, trying to, I was trying to quit smoking and I relapsed again after like being smoke free for 3 weeks, you probably wouldn't tell the person to give up trying and just go back to doing what they were doing, right? We'd probably give some encouraging words like everybody makes mistakes or everybody has setbacks. You have those 3 weeks under your belt already. You showed amazing resilience through that time and you're able to get through it. Those are often things we don't say to ourselves, and we're often the opposite. We're very critical towards ourselves. But again, just trying to imagine what we would say to a friend if they were going through the same thing. The other thing with opening up is that sometimes we can become really attached to our thoughts or sorry, our feelings and also our thoughts. And in the end, we are noticing our thoughts. We aren't necessarily our thoughts. And the metaphor that we use for this is like a chessboard metaphor. There's lots of different pieces on a chessboard, just like there's lots of different emotions and thoughts and feelings and sensations and whatnot that are going on inside of me. I'm not necessarily those pieces, but I am the holder of those pieces, or I'm the container of those pieces. That's a little metaphor to describe how we can have another interaction with our thoughts and feelings. So yeah, just to recap that stuff, noticing noticing what's going on inside of us by using our five senses, looking at our thoughts in a different and detached manner by noticing and I'm having a thought that, or externalizing them like, oh, there's that negative friend again, or passengers on a bus. Looking at our thoughts like objects, like leaves on a stream, and then opening up to those emotions by not telling ourselves to get over it or to not feel this, but just to notice that they're going on and trying to change the interaction that we have with them by labeling the feeling. I'm noticing the feeling of anxiety. So that would be all stuff to deal with the left hand arrow when we're finding ourselves maybe making some sort of like away move away from being the person we want to be. So on the right hand side, there's the towards moves, and those are have under them values, which is the why that we do anything. And there's always a why that's involved in this. I am drinking some water right now because why? Because my health, is important to me. So I'm drinking water right now. Plus, it tastes good, and I truly enjoy the taste of water. Everybody here signed up for the webinar today again, right? There was something that mattered to you in that moment. You might not have thought about it necessarily, but there's something that was important to you. So, even just thinking back to what mattered to you in the moment that you signed up for this webinar today, and what matters now as you're here. It could be about growth or personal development. Again, curiosity, learning, being kind to oneself could be also the reason why that you're here. This is not often something that we consciously think about, but it is going on. And these are values. So they're happening in the moment. Like I said, everybody's here for a reason and that reason is happening right now. Uh, sometimes we confuse values with goals. They're a little bit different. A value is something that can never be achieved. I can never achieve learning. I can sort of set goals for myself for learning. Like a goal might be to read certain books or attend certain webinars or whatnot, but I can never achieve learning. Reading a book and everything would be the goals that I set for myself on that. And think of values like as being like a compass point. So they are true north where that we are always moving towards. Never actually going to achieve north, but we're always going to be moving towards north. Some other points about values that, they just kind of like feel right to us. And there might be some emotions attached to them, but it just kind of like feels right. And our values about anything can sort of like change, or some might have more importance than others, depending on where we are. And to help out with this, uh, there's a handout that was just posted on the website under this webinar. It's called Clarify Your Values Worksheet. There's 50 or so different values on there, and these are just some ways that we can underpin and maybe strengthen or find reason for why we're doing something. So on the choice point model, the towards moves, right? We would put some values under there for whatever habit that we want to change or the change that we want to make for ourselves. For example, drinking more water, right? Might be a the values under that could be fitness or caring for your body. Uh, it could actually be able to challenge too, right? Like if you're that type of person that you would just want to see yourself always striving for something. So these are just some other good questions just to ask oneself when they're going to be doing something differently or when they're going to be making that health or that lifestyle change. So how will engaging in this behavior help me toward a value? How does engaging in this action help me express a value? So this person has for that, when I go for a walk in the forest, I'm expressing a value of contact with nature. What matters to me about this behavior and what matters to me about that? When I walk and I'm with other people in my walking group, I value supportiveness and connection. Might be it. And another good question to ask yourself, if no one else knew I was doing this, would I still do it? And that is an excellent question because if you're just doing it for other people, it might not be it might be difficult basically to do it for other people unless it's for reasons for why you're doing it. And if there are reasons, then that points to values. So those are the values are like the helpers essentially for making the behavior change. They're actually kind of like other passengers that are on the bus, right? They're the more encouraging ones, the reasons that are giving reason to drive that bus basically towards a certain destination or towards values and what's important to you. And we use noticing just to notice those values too. So again, asking these types of questions can cement basically the reasons why we are doing something. And acceptance and commitment therapy has commitment in it. So commitment is uh, essentially like goal setting or doing something intentionally in order to move uh, towards that those values. So we tend to set what's called SMART goals. Uh, these are pretty common in any sort of like health related behavioral change, and you might have heard these from a dietitian or a occupational therapist, from a social worker or a nurse or whoever. But if you haven't, SMART goals is an acronym for something that's specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. A vague goal might be something like, I want to be healthy. That would be a vague goal. A SMART goal would be something like my earlier one. I'm going to walk 4 times a week after dinner, and I'm going to do that for, let's say, like a month. Specific, it's really getting specific on the behavior of walking. It's certainly measurable as well because it was, oh yeah, sorry, it was based on a time like walk for 30 minutes. So it's measurable in that way. It's achievable. Yep. Doing it after dinner would be totally fine for me or before dinner. It's realistic. That's something that I know I can do again. And it's time bound. So we attach time to it and also, going to do it for like a month and track it and see how it goes. Uh, just for goals, there's some traps that we tend to get into. We call these, sorry, the goal of the SMART goal is it's called a behavioral goal. So it is something that I can see myself doing. we often get to the habit or a trap of maybe setting motivational goals. Like I will push myself out the door to go for a walk. Doesn't sound very doesn't sound very pleasant at all, actually. So a a counter to that might be I will get my walking shoes out and clothes and put them where I could see them, and I can reflect on why this is important. Right? We're not just pushing ourselves out the door. We're finding reason for why this is important to us, and we're also preparing ourselves too by getting our stuff out so we know, oh, I'm doing this this morning. Emotional goals, I will feel happy and relaxed when I go for a walk. Uh, that also might be that also might not be a very realistic goal. Like I said, I run. I don't like running every day. It doesn't, sometimes it doesn't feel pleasant when I'm doing it. When I get back to the house, it feels okay. But if we're looking at feeling a certain way, uh, that might be difficult and kind of like a lofty goal. So a counter to that sort of emotional goal might be I can I can choose to go for a walk and I'm going to see how I feel. I'm going to keep an open mind towards this. We can also get stuck in these thinking goals. So a thinking goal would be I won't beat myself up if I miss a day. Remember what I said about thoughts, right? We can't unlearn a thought or we can't not think something. So a counter to that, or another way of looking at that might be I will remind myself of the compassion and kindness that part of being human is being imperfect, right? So it goes back to that what would I tell a friend stuff. Right. So yeah, if I do mess up, hey, I messed up. And if I told my friend that I messed up, or if my friend messed up, what would I tell them? I wouldn't tell them to completely give up because there's no point in doing this. I would probably encourage them and, treat them with kindness and acceptance and whatnot. Outcome goals can also be sometimes these are okay, sometimes they're not. So if the outcome goal is something like I will lose 10 pounds, we want to maybe focus more on the process for how to get there. So that process might be just like I will eat more vegetables, or I'll uh, have my dinner plate looking like what's recommended to me by the dietitian that I saw, and choosing to do that too. Yeah, so if you find yourself in any of those traps, just try to go back to the SMART goal and focus solely on a behavior and not on anything like motivational goals, emotional goals, thinking goals, or focusing solely on outcome. So just going back to the choice point, we've covered all these things. And to recap, values, helpers that motivate us towards things. The SMART goal is a uh, would be the thing that we want to do, and specific, measurable, achievable, uh, realistic, and time bound. Healthy habits at the bottom, so the thing that we want to do. Exercise, you could put anything under there. Eat more, floss your teeth more, or eat better. Yeah, stop smoking, whatever it is. And then the away moves, so acting away from the person we want to be. Those difficult thoughts are going to show up, or feelings, or sensations and memories. And we can deal with those by just trying to have a different relationship with them and responding to them in a different way, using those unhooking strategies and opening up to our thoughts and feelings. The I just have some references here. I just wanted to point out one of the references that I have, and I'm pointing out because it's a book that I bought and that I really enjoy, and it's the last one there from Lee Bagley D. D stands for Dana. It's called Healthy Habits Suck. It's a great book. It's all based upon acceptance and commitment training and how to how to make and how to maintain changes for ourselves when we're having all these obstacles in our way, like the obstacles that are internal to us, our thoughts and feelings and sensations and whatnot. And that is, yeah, that's the end of the presentation.